Just give a little wave if you can hear me. Welcome to the 4th Coronavirus Business Forum. This is an opportunity, a weekly opportunity now, to just get updates from what's happening at the council and some views from experts on how we can help you. So today we'll have Councillor Jonathan Cook, the Cabinet Member for Business, talking about what's happening in Wandsworth Council in general over this virus, and then we'll get an update on the support implementation process from Graham Russell, David Hudson from HR Department, a human resources company, talking and helping to understand furloughing for businesses, and Zaib Chawla from Lanop Accountants will be sharing knowledge on the furloughing application process and some other updates, I'm sure. And we'll also finally just have a short talk from David Barker from Direct Route Account Assyst, talking about the two sides of debt and how important it is to keep on top of this business encumbrance. I was looking for a word to describe debt and encumbrance as probably appropriate. Before we start, we've got Sarah Banham with us, and Sarah is the actual Vice President of Wandsworth Chamber of Commerce, so she's just going to say hello. She's also the Head of Communities and Sustainability at Battersea Power Station, works very closely with Wandsworth Chamber and everything else that's happening in Wandsworth. And they've launched a new project, which is a digital initiative, digital inclusion, which she'd like to tell you about in partnership with Wandsworth Council.
Thanks, Steve. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I've been struggling with my own Wi-Fi signal now that schools have gone back. First of all, I just want to thank all Wandsworth businesses for supporting both the Chamber and this forum. It is really, really important that we speak and share our experiences with each other and that we share it with the council. And I also want to thank Wandsworth Council, both councillors and officers, for supporting the Chamber, the Business Forum and our local business community. It's so important that we share our experiences on the ground, what is happening with how we access all these schemes and grants, and how we move forward together as a business community. However, why I'm here today is I want to ask you for your help around the area of digital exclusion and poverty amongst some of our more vulnerable families in the borough. And it's especially now that those families are having to cope with online schooling. They can't access or do not have access to a laptop. Some are only, some families only have one top-up mobile phone, and they have to download school kids' work on that phone. So working very closely with Wandsworth Council and our local charities and community groups, we have set up an initiative called the Power to Connect. And where you can really, really help is we're looking for donations of old redundant laptops and tablets. And then what we'll do is arrange collection points across the borough. We take those laptops, we wipe them completely clean and turn them into Chromebooks. And then they get given to our local primary and secondary schools, who will then have identified the families who are most in need. And then those children will be able to use those. The tablets we are looking to donate to St George's Hospital, so that people in ICU can keep in touch with their families. We do know from experience that quite often businesses will upgrade their staff laptops and then the old one just goes into a cupboard and gets forgotten about. And so, not necessarily now, because you can't all access your business premises, but some of you might. But just bear that in mind, because we're hoping to keep this project going for a long time, because digital poverty is an ongoing issue. It has been, but it's just been really brought to the fore by this pandemic and the issues of online schooling and people in ICU not being able to see their families. So that's my plea. All the details of how to donate laptops and other ways you can help the Power to Connect are on the Power to Connect website. I will put those details on the chat room, but please do feel free to contact me directly, particularly around any volunteering you might like to do. So that's really the end of my plea for help, but thank you very, very much for joining the forum and supporting the Chamber.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sarah. I guess, you know, for most of us, people in business, communication, connection isn't a problem. So I think this is an absolutely fantastic project because it does give people who can't afford those types of devices an opportunity to keep up to date with all the information that's coming out. I know in the Chamber, we've got one member who runs a PC repair, and he's always telling me that he's got hundreds of laptops, probably not hundreds, but quite a few laptops sitting on the shelves in various states. So I'll be happy to connect them. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. I will circulate the information when I circulate the recording later on. Over to Councillor Jonathan Cook now to give us an update on what's happening at Wandsworth Council. Jonathan.
Thank you, Steve. Well, morning, everybody. Maybe if I do something similar to what I did last week, just a very quick sketch of the overview and then into some of the business specifics. First of all, can I pass on Councillor Govindia's apologies, leader of the council, make next week, so looks forward to that. In terms of what we're doing at the council, I mean, it continues to be the case that absolutely everything has been reshaped around you know, the current situation. I don't think there's anything that's unaffected really. The core of the response remains the community hub. Still getting hundreds of calls a day. So people are clearly recognising that as a way to get in touch with the council, and just a huge range of issues, and all of those calls are being answered and very quickly, and things being dealt with. So that's the place to direct people for general inquiries. Working very hard to keep all the essential services going. So, for example, the very visible things like street cleaning, and the bin men, of course, have become heroes, quite rightly. Not surprisingly, waste volumes have spiked because everyone's at home now, so that's a bit of a challenge, but we're dealing with it. That's all okay. An interesting situation, we've been working very hard in the last couple of weeks to support rough sleepers, and we've got 66 people off the streets and into accommodation. And it's early days, but we're hoping that this might actually be a bit of an opportunity to help those people in due course into permanent accommodation and employment. So that would be some good that could come out of this situation. I know all London boroughs are doing the same thing. So a lot of work going in on that area. There are loads of things I could mention. I won't go into all of them. Probably the one other big thing I just wanted to mention on the sort of general borough-wide side of things is schools, where there's been a huge focus on staying in touch with all pupils, and that's going very well. You know, almost everyone all pupils are in touch, and so that worry hasn't quite sort of you know, come to fruition. We've got that contact. That's so important. But what has been thrown into stark relief, as Sarah said, is that gap between those who just, you know, most of us do have internet access. We kind of take it for granted, but there are quite a few who don't, and that's a huge challenge in these new circumstances. So the partnership with the power stations, just fantastic, and we're sort of making the most of that. It's a brilliant thing, and really working hard to make sure that there aren't pupils who are excluded by virtue of not having access to the internet. So thank you very much for Sarah for all of that. Moving on to business specifics, Mr. Russell will have the latest, but as of Monday evening, I think we paid out just over £40 million in grants, which is now over 70% of eligible businesses. So we're now focusing on those businesses that we believe may be eligible for some grants, but for whatever reason haven't got in touch with us, just to make sure that everybody who can get a grant does get that. So we're really sort of burrowing into that. In the top sort of handful, about the top 5 of London boroughs in terms of speed with which we've got that grant money out. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I've just got a little sign on my screen saying my internet is unstable. So since last week, we've also had our brief scheme, necessarily brief because the deadline was close, to support any self-employed person who hadn't got their tax return in by the deadline, which I think is close of play today. We had a good response to that, well over 100 responses. It was very useful for us in terms of understanding the challenges that people were facing. Very grateful to the local accountants who partnered with us on that. It's been a very worthwhile exercise. We've learned a lot from it, and hopefully those people got in touch. It's been valuable too. The furlough scheme, which of course is run by central government, went live on Monday. Seems to be working well. I'd like to particularly mention Workmatch, which is the council scheme which in ordinary times tends to have a focus of moving people towards employment in the construction industry. Obviously that's all changed now, and it's very quickly adapted to become a jobs brokerage, really. So we've got a lot of jobs ready people who are coming through Workmatch. So any opportunities to promote that, or yeah, if you've got any contacts with people who are looking for, and many businesses are looking for employees quickly, that's a great place to go to, because we've got a lot of good people lined up and ready to go. So that's working well. I think that's probably all for now. Perhaps just to quickly mention as well, we're I hope this doesn't sound premature, but we are thinking about the recovery as well. You know, we all hope lockdown won't last any longer than it absolutely has to. So conscious of the impact on businesses. Certainly at the council, we're really beginning to give thought to how do we help businesses come out of this when that moment arrives, and you know, what's the advice, the guidance, you know, what can the council do to help that process, because that's not going to be easy. It's, you know, we've never done it before. You know, contribute in any way I can, and thanks again, Steve, for organising these meetings. They're very valuable learning experiences. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. For us, you know, we totally understand that the number one priority has to be the health of the people and the nation, and the council's looking after everyone in Wandsworth. But businesses are extremely important, and I'd just like to reiterate that Wandsworth wants to see its businesses survive. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Graham Russell to just give you a little bit of an update on the implementation process.
Morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I'll just briefly run through the government support schemes that the council is administering, and then I'll just give you some figures. So the first one is for any business in receipt of retail relief will not pay any business rates in 2021, and we will be rebilling all those businesses. Businesses don't have to do anything to receive that relief. Then there are the grant schemes. Firstly, if any business is in receipt of small business rate relief, so it won't be paying any rates, but it's still entitled to claim a grant of £10,000. And then there's the retail, hospitality and leisure sector grants. So any business in those sectors with a rateable value of below 51,000 is entitled to a grant. If your rateable value is up to 15,000 in those sectors, you'll get £10,000. And if it's up to 51,000, you'll get £25,000. Just a very quick update on Councillor Cook's figures, because we made some more payments last night. We're now up to just under 41.5 million, which is 71% of the government's allocation that we've been given. We are now trying to track down the businesses that we believed were eligible in the first place who haven't contacted us. We are trying to contact them by telephone, to invite them to apply, and some of the feedback we're getting is that people haven't been able to go to their premises to pick up the letters. They didn't realise they were eligible. So what I'd say, if you do know of anybody, any of your contacts who might be in a position to be eligible for one of these grants, we'd be very grateful if you could ask them to go to the Wandsworth website and make a claim. So anything we can do to increase the uptake will be greatly appreciated. That's it from me, Steve.
All right, thank you very much, Graham. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for you in the Q&A session.
Yeah.
So furloughing is obviously a huge issue, but also a great help for businesses, and is coming on stream very quickly. So David Hudson from the HR department has very kindly agreed to just give us some information and share some knowledge on how businesses can make the most of this. David, over to you.
Thanks, Steve, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invite. So as Steve says, my name is David Hudson and I'm from the HR department, Clapham, and we provide HR for small businesses across the Wandsworth, Clapham, Vauxhall, Battersea and Lambeth areas. So I'll update you a bit on furlough. Zaib's going to talk to you next in a bit more technical detail, and then Steve's asked me to share with you some things we're experiencing to try and help almost beyond furlough. So as a reminder, the scheme was put into place to protect employees, and in the first instance that was to protect them from redundancy, but the government has helpfully updated the guidance over the weekend, and it's now the case that furlough can be used to support generally in relation to COVID-19. Just by way of a quick reminder, it's a 3-week minimum furlough situation. So your employees come off 3 weeks for a minimum of 3 weeks, and it's at a maximum claim of $2,500 per month, which is subject to various conditions. The key updates from this weekend's, from the government's this weekend were that the furlough qualification period has been extended on to the 19th of March. And that's really helpful because it means that where previously the deadline was the 28th of February, more people can benefit from the job retention scheme, the furlough scheme. Originally, as I said, the scheme was set up to support redundancy situations, but that's been removed now so that employers can claim more broadly for costs relating to COVID-19. You might have seen some growing narrative around how HMRC are handling furlough. From an employee perspective, it's really important that you make sure that you've written to your employee to confirm that the intention for furlough, and that you've got that back basically signed and in writing from them. And again, just to plug that the HMRC have asked that we keep those records for 5 years. There's been some welcome guidance provided. So many clients were asking how a holiday was treated in furlough, and in summary, the guidance now says that holidays can be taken during furlough. Just bear in mind that if you're asking your employees to go onto holiday, that you're giving them the right amount of notice, and also that your holidays need to be paid at 100%. So that's the headlines. I will drop my details in the chat box, and I'm happy to obviously answer questions, but do by all means get in touch after this. I'll share with you a little bit about what we're seeing now and beyond furlough. So from the work we're doing, obviously we've seen firsthand the impact that furlough's having. The majority of our clients, thankfully, are not having to make redundancies at this stage, but sadly that is also an option that they're considering. So we have basically 5 key areas that we're suggesting that you focus on during the lockdown as business owners. And the first being flexible working, and I'm sure there'll be a range of views around how that's gone, but you'll know that flexible working has been the most immediate go-to with people working at home. Many smaller businesses have struggled with it, have not been necessarily open to flexible working. But there's no doubt that based on the adversity that people have gone through, it opens up the conversation for you, and really the thought process around how you might be able to allow your employees to work more flexibly, which also by extension means that you might open yourselves up to a broader market of people that could work for your company. The other thing is that obviously as a pandemic, it's a once in a generation situation, and hopefully we won't be in this situation again anytime soon, but flexibility is key. And again, I would urge you to look at how you've worked flexibly to understand whether that's something you continue, because if disaster strikes again, clearly we need to have learnt lessons from this current pandemic. Some other things to think about. I appreciate that you will all, as we are, have your head buried in what's happening sometimes day to day and in the moment, but really thinking about beyond furlough. Our clients are asking us what should they be doing now, and our tips at the moment are that leadership is key. So crisis management is important, but leadership is key, and really it's about making sure your team are engaged and that you are able to focus on some of the bigger picture questions in terms of what happens post the lockdown. Unfortunately, there are, we expect, going to be redundancies and downsizing, and that's going to take us into different territory where there will be difficult conversations to be had. So be ready for that. And again, if you need help, you just need to reach out to us for that. One of the interesting things we're seeing is that small companies are actually becoming more creative. So many people have asked, you know, maybe what I'm offering now is not quite right for the future. So dare I say, it's an opportunity to think more creatively about what you're offering in the longer term, bearing in mind that once the bar's lifted, everybody, quite frankly, will be rushing into the market to get to consumers. So it's a great opportunity to think outside the box. Finally, then, we are definitely seeing, and I'm sure you have too, press and other narrative around the impact that the isolation is having on people in general. But from an employee perspective, we are seeing that this is having quite a strain. So as you start to move back into business as usual, think carefully about making sure that your people are being safeguarded, and use positive mental and physical health initiatives to drive the welfare piece, because that, I think, is going to be almost one of our biggest challenges. And then finally, just make sure you're planning. So this has thrown up for many companies a huge landmine, if you like, because people just weren't ready. So use this as an opportunity to think about what if scenarios, so that you're not only ready to deal with post-furlough, but also ultimately down the line, what have you learned from this that means you can maybe more future-proof your businesses? So that's it. As I said, I am available to talk through any one of those things. I will leave my details in the chat box. So please feel free to don't hesitate to contact me. And most importantly of all, make sure that you're keeping yourself safe. Thanks, Steve.
That's lovely, David. Thank you very much. For me, the mental health side of things is really important. I know it was kind of on the government agenda, right on the verge of making it almost compulsory for businesses to have to consider mental health, and I'm sure that will happen very soon. But it's certainly something that, because of this pandemic, will affect nearly everybody. So thank you for that. Zaib, would you like to talk us through the application process of furloughing?
Yes, thank you. Davis has summed up furlough very nicely. I'll talk about the practical implication of it. Today is the deadline to submit your claim, but that doesn't mean that you cannot submit it tomorrow. You can submit it later as well. The only thing is that if you want to be paid by the 30th of April, then today is the deadline, which means you should be contacting your accountant if you have one. If not, then please log into your government gateway ID. And when you log in, you will see Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme on your right, and you can click it. And then you will be needing certain details. You will be needing employer name, you will be needing employer address, you will be needing corporation tax reference number for the company if you are a limited business. If not, if you're a self-employed sole trader, then you will be needing your UTR number. If you're a charity, of course, you will be needing a charity number. If you're a foreign employer, then you will be needing any registration reference number you have with the company's house. On top of it, what you will be needing breakdown of your employees. So you will need to enter individually employees' details, their full name, their NI numbers. You will be needing gross pay and employer's national insurance employer's national insurance contribution breakdown, and also pension contribution breakdown. Interesting thing is, we've contacted all of our clients, all of the employers we look after. HMRC guidance is very strict around the furlough agreement. I mean, first of all, we heard there would be something like you should have a notification in place, which could be only signed by an employer, and you could keep it for your records. But then further updates were released, and now we know there needs to be a proper furlough agreement, which needs to be co-signed by an employee. But we also know that the updates came late, and now we are in a lockdown situation. So email confirmations from your employees can be kept, can be read as a proof. And but once this lockdown is over, I will recommend that the proper paperwork is in place, and you do consult somebody in HR, somebody like David, who can give you a legal perspective as well. We've also tried to simplify the calculations. I haven't created any slides for this, but I have our blog will be uploaded later today, which I will be sharing the details, and Steve can then regulate it to others as well. It will have simple calculations how you can calculate furlough pay. Basically, let's take an example. If you have an employee and you have furloughed him on 20th of March, you can put together either one claim from 20th of March up till 30th of April, or you could break it down from 20th of March to 31st of March, and then from 1st of April to 30th of April. So what let's say the employee is paid £1,000 a month. What you will need to do is apportion the gross salary over the 31 days for the March, and then take a ratio of 11 by 31 and then multiply it. You will get a very simplified calculation, and that figure needs to go in there. Now now we will be entering April. In April, every employer will get an allowance of £4,000, which means you wouldn't have to pay the first 4,000 employers national insurance contribution. If your employer's national insurance contribution is still utilizing this allowance, then please make sure you put 0, or you do not claim any national insurance contribution payment from the HMRC. So this is the general advice. Anyway, I wanted to say I will be putting the email address in the chat box as well. Please, any furlough queries, or if you need a second opinion on your calculations, please send it to our payroll department with the subject title Wandsworth Chamber. We will provide the feedback with no fee or no cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zaib. That was very helpful. I'm always daunted when I go onto the HMRC website. I can never seem to get through, but working with Zaib has it's kind of made that really easy. So I tend to always refer to an expert now. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to now ask David Barker to come on and talk to us about this horrible question of debt and share with us both sides of it. Thank you very much, David. Over to you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. I run two companies based in London, Account Assyst, which is a credit monitoring, credit checking, account opening system, organized automated system. And the other side of the business, when the invoicing goes wrong, is a company called Direct Route. And we specialize in business-to-business, zero-cost debt recovery. Of course, sadly, we have seen a huge spike in an increase in inquiries for our systems. At the moment, more than ever before for businesses, cash is king, and everybody wants cash. Companies who have cash aren't keen to part with it, and those that don't have it want it. And it's very interesting listening to David and Zaid actually about the furloughing, because that's something I'm going to come on to in a minute. We've seen a lot of people who almost sideline their invoice chasing because they've been busy organising their companies and getting their sort of the ducks in the line, going on sort of rent holidays and furloughing staff. But what they've taken their eye off a little bit is getting cash in. Last week, for a company, building related company in Orpington, I recovered £154,000 for them, which had been owed for over 7 months, and it was seriously impacting their business. We got that back for them in 3 days. Zero cost to them. It's, in essence, talking to the MD the night before last, it saved his business. He was worried he wasn't going to be able to pay anybody and was going to have to sideline the business for the time being. But it isn't all that bad. As long as you've got things in place, proper things in place, you can avoid people not paying you. It's the thing we call the 7 deadly sins. And I'll just quickly run through them because they're quite useful. Some of you may have all of them in place, some of you may be missing a few. But one of the main ones is not knowing exactly who you're dealing with. You don't know the exact entity of the company. If you haven't got that on the invoice, then things are going to go badly wrong for you. Are you dealing with Joe Bloggs? Are you dealing with Joe Bloggs Limited? Are you dealing with Joe Bloggs and Sons? Or are you dealing with Joe Bloggs trading as joebloggs.com? It's really important that you get the exact company entity right and you do a sort of credit check and get the company number. That'll save you a lot of trouble. Second one is sort of inadequate terms and conditions, and it's something we see a lot of, and it's fine. You know, it was fine 3 or 4 months ago when the going was good, but when the going gets tough like it is now, if you've got inadequate terms and conditions and people aren't obeying them, it's not going to be much help to you. There's going to be all kinds of ins and outs they can get out of. You can get generic ones for between £500 to £1,000 from a solicitor, or we have our own ones, which are available through the deal we have with the Chamber for free. The third one is sloppy paperwork and lax administration. So, you know, you've got incorrect customer details on an invoice, incorrect customer details for your accounting records. You fail to put order numbers on invoices. Unsigned for proof of deliveries, that's a big one we're seeing at the moment with a lot of customers trying to deliver goods that just aren't, there's no one in the offices and factories to sign for them. And failure to get proper agreements on your credit facilities. You need to always check and order your receivers from the exact entity you have on your accounting records, and probably best to credit check your customers regularly. Fourth one is complacency. We've dealt with them before, they've always paid, we've dealt with them for years, I've known the guy for a long time. That may well have been the case, but times have changed. That company could have serious cash flow issues at the moment. They may be waiting for payments to come in. They may have let a load of staff go. They haven't got the staff to deal with these problems. It's really important that you call your customers at the moment. Fifth one is failure to chase overdue money promptly and regularly. You really do need a rigid and proper control policy. In fairness, the big failing here is more with the smaller companies. The larger companies seem to have this in order at the moment. It's more where the owner becomes focused on the daily running of the company than its cash flow. You know, they've been dealing, as I say, with furlough and rent holidays, and suddenly they realise that, you know, there's a load of invoices that should have come in 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they haven't got the cash. So you need to be organise your invoice. Sixth point is be prepared to turn down at the moment prudential to write-off customers. The sales team will hate you for this if they're still in or still working. They're probably working from home, but there's going to be a lot of customers who will be seriously downgraded on their credit ratings, and they won't be able to get credit from banks and stuff, but they'll be able to get credit from you. Again, really important to check that they are who they say they are, the credit rating's good, and just give them a bit of leeway. Don't give them the credit rating that you may have done. Do a bit pro forma, do that kind of stuff. You can always blame an existing account downgrading on your credit insurance, saying that they turned you down recently, so you can't pass it on. And the last one, of course, most importantly, know your customer before, during and after. Just need to really manage that relationship at the moment, especially with new customers. Just offer realistic credit terms and levels, and just above all else, keep talking to them. It's really important to keep talking to them. That's more of the account assist side. The direct route side is the sort of recovery side. And as I said, we've seen a huge uptick in inquiries and recovery procedures for us from all sectors of the market at the moment. A lot of companies are almost in shutdown, and things have basically been sidelined for them, but they're desperate to get money in. Now the rent and furloughing thing is that bit's over. People are sort of getting on top of it a bit more. But I will say, if you owe money to someone and you have the money in the bank, it's really important you get them paid and the cash flow is spinning around the system. I think going forward, people won't forget that if you owe them money, they'll come after you for it, and they won't forget that you owe them money. You need to talk to debtors and creditors. It's one thing we're really struggling with at the moment in the office is that emails are going unanswered and people aren't answering the phones. But sadly, that'll be no excuse going forward that we couldn't get hold of you. The fact is the invoice stands, the emails have gone out and people want their money. We've recently done a huge amount of work with a British Promotional Merchandising Association. We rolled out Assyst platform that we've rolled out with Steve as well. And we had some really interesting feedback. They really struggled with, some people struggled with deliveries. They've delivered a load of goods that there hasn't been anyone at the premises and they've been sent back. These goods are now sitting with DHL or all the courier companies, and there's been a lot of rowing going on about who owes what to who and whether they've been delivered or not. You need people at the office to deliver goods, or phone the company up to say you haven't had goods. So just basically finishing off, we've launched a platform called COVID-19, which Steve put a letter out about this morning, and we'll circulate it again later on today. In essence, it's a free platform that it costs £1 to join. We give that £1 straight to the NHS frontline appeal. All it's doing is really invigorating customers to talk to you and you to talk to customers. You get your own platform. You can send out as many invoices as you want to as many customers. And we send out a letter saying, look, we know things are tough. We know cash flow is really tight for other companies at the moment, but you owe an invoice to someone and just talk to them. So we've organised an awful lot of repayment packages, long-term payment plans. Some people can't pay. A lot of customers have never found themselves in this position. They've suddenly realised that there isn't any money coming in and they can't pay their suppliers. But at least we've got them talking to each other, and it's been a very good way of getting customers back on side again. What you can't do if you owe money is go down a hole and just batten down the hatches. That isn't going to work. You need to talk to the guy who's supplied you the goods and say, I'm really sorry, I can't pay. So we've had just over 500 cases on the platform, it's produced remarkable results for us. We've got a 90% positive response rate to them. As I say, people come back with immediate payments, payment promises, and payment plans. And just to finish off with, last night, a customer of mine, a builder's merchant in Camberley, had a £12,000 invoice owed to him by a builder. It was 35 days late. They put it on the system at 5:30 last night, and at 9:30 this morning, he sent me an email to say it had been paid in full. And he's going to retain that customer. We're not the sort of the guys you see on TV and Range Rovers with dogs and baseball bats. It's a very gentlemanly way of doing things. And the main thing above all else now is customer retention. And as I say, if you use the system, if you need to use it, please give me a call. My number will be on the screen later on. It's on the screen in the back now. But it's a really good way of recovering cash and retaining your customers. We do it in a decent manner. Plus, if it does need to go to debt recovery, we give 10% of our fee to the NHS Trust, and Wandsworth Chamber take 10% as well. Money for everybody is really important now. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much, David. We've had a great relationship with Account Assistant Direct Route. I've actually seen the letter that David's referring to. I read it and it brought a tear to my eye. I thought, I wouldn't mind receiving that sort of letter because it sets out the debt in such a compassionate way. And I think the one phrase that you said, get cash flow spinning around the system, sums it all up. We all have to do our bit. So, whether it's money owed or whether you owe money, keep it spinning around. So thank you very much to all of our speakers. There was a lot of information there. And I've seen questions going up on the chat box. So now's the time for the question and answer session. Has anyone got a question?
I've been keeping a track of who was asking questions as well, if that's helpful.
Yeah. So Clive Lathey. Clive, what is your question?
Thank you very much, Steve. That was a very helpful session. We don't qualify for any business rates, holiday or grant because we're a medical facility and we pay in excess of £15,000 in business rates. And I've been on lots of platforms representing dentists and medical facilities, and it's being challenged at a government level. But as things stand, we get no support at all. And I just wondered whether that's being looked into. I've emailed Fleur Anderson and contacted Wandsworth Chamber of Commerce as well, but I don't know the answer to the problem. Don't know whether you've got any thoughts.
Zaib, would you like to take that question? I think it's one of those areas that it's still hanging, and I know that Wandsworth Council, all the councils are lobbying government, and we're lobbying the councils on it. But Zaib, I don't know if you've got any more detail.
No, nothing update, but I would say you will have to lobby, as I heard in previous sessions as well. We're being recommended to contact the local MP and raise your voice.
I've done that. We fall between the cracks, and there's thousands upon thousands of physiotherapy clinics, dental practices that are all in danger of financial disaster. We don't get any support at all. As a company director, I don't even get furlough assistance either, because pay ourselves in a mixture of dividends and payment, and not PAYE. So we don't get support on that front either. Business interruption insurance has been turned down. I'm challenging that with a legal basis, with a lawyer's letter. We've got no support from anywhere. I'm negotiating with a landlord for rent, but they can't do much. So I can't see any way out of this. And I'm sure that many of the local Putney medical businesses will be under massive pressure. And I don't see any way out. At the moment, there's no support. It's all going to take so long in terms of campaigning that I fear that the money will run out long before you get a resolution. It's 25 years of work going up in smoke. There's no liquidation. Maybe the only option at the moment. It looks that way.
All right, Clive, Graham, is there anything that you can add to that?
Unfortunately, I say not. I mean, the schemes that we're administering are government schemes, and unfortunately, the medical businesses are a specified exclusion from those schemes. Now,
why?
I have no idea. I mean, it's a government scheme. We weren't consulted in constructing the schemes or anything like that. We just got the guidance notes, and we have to implement them in accordance with that guidance. That's why we've been advising that the best route will be to go via the MPs to lobby government to try and extend the schemes.
We have been doing that. I'm doing on regular platforms, and we've got petitions and campaigns. But it's all. I find it's an extraordinary oversight to not include medical facilities. I just can't believe that's been allowed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the reason for that exclusion, I'm afraid.
No one does.
No.
Yeah, sorry, Clive, but obviously, just try and hang in there.
Well, I don't know for how long, Steve. I mean, the money's running out, and the bank's not being supportive either. So I can't see any solution at the moment.
If I can add, Clive, as a director of a limited company, I know the support is very less, but you can be furloughed if there is any payroll was being processed for you. Even let's say I know the efficient tax planning has been that pay yourself £700 a month or so, and then take the rest as dividends. You can still claim 80% of that monthly salary. I'm afraid that is the only support available. I know there has been different point of view. People have been saying, no, you need a working director, but we've seen the guidance that if you're not bringing in any income, if the business has completely been shut down, there is no income, then you can be furloughed. It also means that you can still continue to do statutory obligation, or you can still fulfill your statutory obligations by contacting an accountant, by making employees furloughed, etc. But you can be furloughed.
My accountant's looking into it, and technically, because I pay myself dividends and a salary and not PAYE, he's found that I can't be furloughed.
If he pays you salary, then it means your small salary is being processed every month through PAYE. I will PM you, okay? Share your pay slip and I'll advise you on it, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Clive.
Thank you.
Tim Jones, you've got a question. I'm just going to unmute you.
Hi guys, yeah, thanks for having me. My question's about timing really, and with the SBBR grant, I think we must have been in the first wave of letters. I've managed to get and check my business, so I think we were closed since the 20th of March, or maybe even a couple of days before that. And we received a letter in that week asking us to apply for the grant. We did that. And it's been a bit of a nightmare, really. There hasn't been any communication about it. I contacted a counsellor who I know of, and I emailed Graham over the weekend, who said that we would be looking at the payment on Wednesday this week. But as yet, we've got nothing. And unfortunately for us, we don't have a lot of, we kind of, our week 3 sales kind of pay for our week 1 bills. Do you know what I mean? We're always kind of catching up because we're a very small business. So I just wondered about if you've got any idea of the timing of that. I mean, you said that you're now looking for businesses that haven't had the opportunity to apply. We applied in the first week and we've heard literally nothing apart from the effort I made on Friday to try and chase it up.
Graham, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, firstly, sorry it hasn't got through. I've just emailed my business rates manager to find out the status of the payments. I haven't got a response yet, but when I do, I'll get back to you.
Okay, that's cool. That's fair enough. I mean, the only other thing I would possibly want to say about the whole system is I know that you probably don't want. Sorry, I'm just walking because my wife and I are working in the same space and she needs to make a call. So I've just left my so you can probably see me walking out the garden in the garden back into our house. We've got an office in the bottom of our garden.
Yeah. Sorry. Hi, Tim. Sorry, I've had to mute you. You're breaking up completely there. Come back to us when you've got a better signal. Mark, you've had your hand up, so I'm going to unmute you. Mark Justin, for your question.
Yeah, one for Graham quickly. I mean, unlike Tim Jones, I've got the grant, but you're slowly taking it all back again by carrying on the direct debits for taking the business rates. So how do I get the money back that you're taking each month? Should I just stop the direct debit? Although you don't like that because then it breaks the continuity for the future. But I mean, it seems a bit silly. You're giving me the money on one hand and you're taking it back with another.
Yeah, well, what that was an extended retail grant, was it? Presumably?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what should have happened, and apologies that in your case it hasn't, is that all those direct debits should have been not cancelled but stopped. We are expecting to be able to issue revised bills fairly shortly. There's a software update required from our software supplier, which has been taking some time, and that bill will obviously be for zero. If you want to email me your details, I can arrange to check why.
Okay. What's your email address? Can you just put it up on the screen?
Yeah, I'll do it. Put it up to everybody on there.
Just quickly, while I've got you, one more, and as a general thing to everyone on the site tonight, has anyone managed to make a claim on their business interruption insurance? I know that Richard Hodson has been very helpful, but I mean, it's 3 weeks now since the first of these meetings. I made a claim straight away, been batted off by the broker, batted off by the insurer, and batted off by the loss adjuster. So the only recourse left to me now is a legal one to sue the insurance company. But I just wondered if anyone had managed to make any headway with a business interruption claim on their policy.
Can I?
Clive, yeah.
Yeah. I've actually had to engage services of a lawyer because for the time that the loss could amount to around 100,000, which is the limit of what they'll pay out. I paid a lot of money for a very good contract lawyer who's exposed a contradiction in the terms and conditions in a clause. And I've just had a copy of the letter today, which we're now sending off to the underwriter. So
I was looking to anyone to sort of share the costs with, you know, to get, because once once you go down that route, I think Richard Hodson should come in on this. I think he's got some advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let Richard come on, I think.
Okay, just trying to find Richard.
I've unmuted myself, Steve.
Thanks, Richard.
I'm sorry, Clive, that you've spent money on a lawyer, because there's a couple of services out there, Fenchurch Law, which actually give you free legal advice on the outcome of your contract on a dispute as well. And if anybody wants to challenge what they think is a valid claim, please let me know, and I'll happily get it into Fenchurch Law for you. And that's what they do is they give you a free legal opinion at the start, and then the chances what they think is an outcome for this, and then if they were then to pursue the claim, they would lay out their costs for you. But certainly, please don't anybody go and if you don't have to, don't go and waste money on lawyers at this stage where there's free options available. Sorry, Clive, it's come a bit late for you on that one, but sorry, Mark, I owe you an email.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my mother is on a ventilator with this disease at the moment.
Oh, dear. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a question from James Cash. James, I'm just looking for your... Lovely. James, you're unmuted.
Weekly contact. It's great to hear everyone. Mine's not a question, actually. It's just a comment of thanks, really, to Graham Russell on last week's forum. I heard someone who's in a similar position to me, RE business rates, and I think Tim has just mentioned the same thing. Very expediently dealt with. I emailed Graham after the forum. He forwarded me to somebody else, and we actually got our business rates back in on Monday morning with acknowledgement of our grant application. I own the train station at Wandsworth Common, a gym, so we fall into the leisure grant facility. Not in receipt, I haven't received it yet, but judging from the note that was sent with me, I imagine it's being dealt with as one of the 29% that have not yet got it. But it's encouraging to hear that people on this forum have got them, and I thank Graham for the swift recovery of my business rates. That was all. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you very much. Pravin Pasini, I'm unmuting you for your question.
Right. Thank you, Steve, and thank you very much for organizing this forum. It's extremely valuable. Can I just quickly put my little bit in for was it a gentleman asking about insurance? Now, one of our jewelers, policy, I'm a jeweler, says that you have to have a specific clause to say that it is covered for pandemics. So I think that you've got to be careful if before you start employing legal, you want to make sure that your business interruption policy does have cover for pandemics, because it was a specific question asked by jewelers to our insurance broker, and all of them categorically said that you can't claim on your business interruption policy because pandemics is something which is not generally covered in most business interruption policies. But that's my input from the chat that I had with our professional body. My question to the council was that, you have been very prompt. I've got my business grant, which is extremely helpful and valuable and very timely to be able to put all of my furloughed employees and keep paying them. I'm going to pay all of them 100%. So we are putting in the remainder 20% to make sure that we support them at these difficult times. But from the perspective of, Wandsworth had some of the best businesses, and some of the businesses which we have in Wandsworth you won't see anywhere in London. And what is the council, in addition to what the government is doing, going to support? What sort of support has it got for businesses? We've heard one or two who are likely to go down under. Is there anything that the council can do to help financially?
Graham, would you like to take that one first, and perhaps Jonathan make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, the council has no funding itself to be able to implement some kind of support scheme in the way that the government has. We're already in receipt of additional funding from central government to support our existing services. particularly thinking of things like adult social care and so on and so forth. And of course, a number of our income streams have collapsed, things like parking and so on. So unfortunately, the council's not in a position to run a support scheme of that nature.
Okay.
Jonathan, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I suppose there must be some sort of additional support that the council can give, not essentially financially, to be able to, you know, the gentleman we heard earlier who's likely to go down under because he falls in a medical field. Surely there should be some sort of support available from the council in order to make sure that some of the good businesses don't go down under unnecessarily.
Yeah, shall I come in there? Thanks very much, Steve. Yeah, I mean, sadly, we don't have the sums available to the council. Central government has them, and we all know they're absolutely enormous. We're into the hundreds of billions now. We see our role as being to understand the specific issues, where the problems are, and so very much taken on board Clive comments earlier. We're aware of this bizarre anomaly affecting physiotherapists and dentists, and we've already passed that back to central government, and I've taken careful notes, and I'll be thinking further about what we can do to just really re-emphasize that. I think just on that specific, I think the origin of it is that all those activities have been designated as essential services, but of course you've been hit very hard because nobody wants to sort of take up those services anymore, so you're absolutely caught, is my understanding of it. So that strikes me as a bizarre anomaly, so we will certainly be communicating that in every way we can. I think our role is on the one hand passing things back to central government and saying, hey, we think this needs tweaking, it's not working, you got it wrong. And on the other hand, as I was saying earlier, thinking about what can we do to support the business ecology of Wandsworth, which I agree, I'm delighted to hear you say is very special. We absolutely agree with that, and we want to do absolutely everything we can to preserve that, and then as we get into a recovery stage, assist that recovery and get the momentum going, get the cash spinning, as we were saying earlier. So I think that's where we can be most valuable. We can't, I don't think we can sort of compete with central government in terms of money, because we don't sit on huge amounts of cash, as Mr. Russell was saying. That's just the reality of it. But if there's anything that anyone can see that you think, hey, the council could be doing that, that'd be really helpful on this sort of advice role, do please say. We're all learning here. So that's how I see our role.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's just an extremely difficult one. I think, we're coming up to that time when businesses will have to start making that decision. Can I continue, or do I need to pull the plug and regroup, really? Sometimes there just isn't the help out there, but this is something that, we are pushing up the line all the time. All the chambers across the UK, all the councils, we are pushing for help for all the businesses. Graham, I don't know if you can tell us just how many businesses are sort of still on the list to be paid of the applications you've received, or are you pretty much up to date now?
As of Monday night, we had, I think, 182 businesses where we'd had applications and we still had queries. And we do some prepayment checks just to make sure that we're not being subjected to any fraud and so on. So it's a fairly small number, and we're obviously working through those.
But I presume you would have contacted those businesses, would you?
Yes, many of them we've emailed back asking for additional information, yes.
All right. But is there still a backlog of applications to be dealt with, or are you pretty much up to date apart from that?
I think we are pretty much in the situation where we've dealt with all the ones that we can deal with, and we're just dealing with the outstanding queries. Obviously, new applications keep coming in on a daily basis. Yeah. But we should be able to keep fairly up to date with those.
Okay, because I think you said you probably dealt with about 71% of the applicable businesses that there's still some outstanding.
Yep.
Are you still just communicating through letter, or is it email as well? Because I know that was a question before.
Well, the problem with a lot of the small businesses is that we don't have any contact details for them, because if you're a business who doesn't pay any rates because you're on small business rate relief, there's absolutely no reason for you to contact the council. So we're in the position, it's a common position nationally, that we don't have those contact details. So at the moment, we've got a team of people going through, looking up through phone books and whatever, trying to find these businesses through other means to contact them. But when we wrote to everybody previously, I mean, that was just before lockdown, we sent the letters out, but we had quite a lot of criticism about what a silly thing that was to do, because people couldn't get to their businesses. So we don't want to necessarily go down that route again.
Okay, yeah, I think the point I was just trying to make really was that someone said earlier that businesses should try and visit their premises just to see if there are any letters lying around. If you haven't been contacted, do get in touch with Graham's department again. Okay, does anyone else have any questions for the panel?
Mira had a couple of questions.
Mira.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mira.
Hello. My first question was to Graham. I emailed him on the email that he shared, but it was about the grants. We've applied on 30th of March for all of our 7 shops for Wandsworth Oasis. We have a chain, charity shops chain, and we haven't been contacted for any further information, but we also haven't been paid yet. And I just wondered how big is your backlog, or if, you know, if we could get an update.
Yeah, as I've just said, there shouldn't really be a large backlog now. There certainly shouldn't be a backlog going back to the 30th of March, and I have just emailed the team asking for an update, and I'll get that back to you as soon as I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mira.
Paul Taborn, you had one?
Paul, did you still have a question, or has it been answered?
Hi there. Yeah, I just had one question about this. I think that's been answered now, that they are going to be, I keep getting bills through starting the following month, so 1st of April, 1st of May. I assume I will end up, when the software's sorted, with a nil bill, will I?
Yeah, if you're eligible.
I've had a grant.
Yeah, so if you're in receipt of retail relief, then you'll get a 0 bill, yes.
Yeah, I've had the retail relief on the bills, but does that mean there is something owing, or does that mean there is still a full business rate holiday? I'm a bit confused.
No, the relief that's being offered under the extended retail scheme is 100%, whereas it was 30% last year.
Oh, okay. So I will end up with a 0 bill, yeah?
Yes.
This year. Yeah, thank you. And the other quick thing, the grants, what is the repayment method of the grant, and what is the tax situation with them?
Well, it's a grant, it's not repayable.
Not repayable at all in any form?
No.
No, and what is the tax? It's corporation tax is still considered on that, is it?
That'll be one for Zaib to answer.
Okay.
Yes, it is taxable income, but given we all know you still have expenses, you're still, the rents haven't been abolished, they're still there. So we believe all these grants will be eaten up by your expenses. So there shouldn't be any profit in the end, which would be charged, which would be chargeable to corporation tax.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for the meeting, Steve, as well. Thank you very much indeed, everybody.
All right, Paul. Tim, you had a follow-up question? Tim Jones?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it was actually answered really with Mira. I was just a bit concerned that they said about we'd be contacted. I mean, I haven't been contacted about any further information. Like I said, I received a letter and we applied on the 23rd of April. Sorry, 23rd of March. 23rd of April hasn't happened yet, I don't think. So I was just a bit concerned that actually maybe I'd missed something, that somebody needed some more information. But as far as I'm aware, I haven't been contacted. So I think Graham said he's already already tried to chase it up anyway, so I think it's covered.
Yeah, I'll get back to you with the status as soon as I find it out.
Yeah, we're Animalina Pet Care. If that helps, I know we trade as Downtown Woof. I don't know if that's a confusion at all, but our limited company is Animalina Pet Care Limited. So I don't know if that's anything to do with it.
Yeah, okay, I'll get onto that.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the forum. It's been great. I've never done anything like this before actually, and it's been pretty good. We'll just have to excuse the lockdown dress code.
Thank you very much for showing us your garden and the beautiful sunshine out there.
I know. I'm going to try and get out there and make the most of it.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, James McCallum, he had a question.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. I'm trying out a new webcam, so not quite sure what's going on. I've been on the HMR website, HMRC website even, while we've been talking. The question was about actually reclaiming back statutory sick pay. There's lots on the coronavirus job retention scheme, but not much on how to reclaim SSP, and the answer seems to be system hasn't been set up yet. Unless anyone knows otherwise, I think I just have to be patient.
Hi, someone unmuted and talking in the background. Yeah, sorry, James.
Yeah, I think I asked my question, and I think the answer is there is no answer. We just have to wait until HMRC lays out the process. All their effort seems, well, quite rightly, has gone into the coronavirus job retention scheme, and they've yet to work out the way in which, presumably eventually online, the employers will be able to claim back statutory sick pay that they pay to employees that are self-isolating either for the 7 days or the 14 days as appropriate.
All right. David or David Hudson or Zaib, did you want to make a comment on that?
I missed some of it. Sorry, I got kicked out. It's my understanding, I think, though, from what you just said, that yes, the system hasn't been set up yet, so there's no guidance, no definitive guidance on reclaiming. But Zaib might have some insider information he can share.
Same as yours. System needs to be updated, but please, as I said, all your payroll queries, email it to us, payroll@lanop.co.uk with the reference Wandsworth Chamber, and one of my staff members will reply. I am not very savvy with national insurance contributions and sick pays. I don't operate our payroll, but my payroll staff will get back to you ASAP.
Thank you.
Okay, lovely. So I've seen a question, well, just a comment from Cleo Thomas, who we heard from last week. Cleo runs the children's gym, but wasn't eligible, and she's still waiting for a reply from Graham. So Graham, if I could just remind you to follow up on that email, that would be great. I think we've run out of questions, but whilst
there's just a couple more. I don't know if there's time, but Gazette Battersea, they posted a couple of questions, so they just messaged asking if they can ask that question.
Yeah. Would you like to unmute them?
Just trying to find them now. Ah, yes.
Can you hear me? I've just unmuted myself, I think.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. Hi, Steve. Hi, everyone. I've got a couple of HR questions, but before that, just wanted to get from Graham whether we had an update on the grant for businesses over 51K. I mean, I'm just failing to understand why businesses with a rateable value over 51K are eligible to absolutely nothing compared to other businesses in the borough. Probably not up to you, but just wondering if you have an update.
I'm afraid it's the same situation as with the medical businesses. The schemes come down from government with the 51,000 cut-off, and inevitably there are going to be people just above that cut-off who are going to lose out. So again, the only advice I could offer would be to go via your MP and see if the government is prepared to.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay. So I'm sorry,
Okay,
I can't be more helpful on that.
It's all right. It's all right. I'll keep reminding you of this. Just a couple of HR questions. I may be stupid, but does this mean that we need to run 2 payrolls this month? Meaning that I need to run a payroll for the, obviously, in terms of furlough, I mean, for the last week of March, since I closed like everybody else on the 20th. So I've got a week of payroll to furlough plus this month that I need to do now. So does this mean that I need to combine the 2 on the HMRC platform?
You can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. Yes, you can. You can combine the 2. You can even only process for March, and then you can process for April. Do you have an accountant, or are you doing it by yourself?
Both. I have an accountant, but I've also started doing it by myself. A bit complicated. He's sort of helping me, so I think I should be there, and I'll be okay. But I just wanted to know, based on earlier comments, whether I had to do both. I mean, at the moment, I'm ready with March. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll get on to April.
I like to separate the 2. So the ones that I did myself, I separated the March one. Most of the businesses, they furloughed their employees from 20th of March. So we saw 11 days payroll for March, and then 30 days furlough claim for April.
Yeah, it's my case as well. Now, I'm hearing that again, it's my failing to understand possibly. So the furlough starts from the 1st of March. Like you just said, most businesses close from the 20th. What does this mean for me? Because obviously we all suffered from this situation.
When did you close?
20th.
20th. So your furlough date will be 20th. But say, for example, some of your employees, you already cut their hours short and you told them not to come in from 15th of March. Okay. So then you can push the date back to 15th. There needs to be a document which will have a furlough date, and it needs to be co-signed by yourself and your employee.
Well, yeah, I've already sent my employees all the documents, but it's just very vague because there are people that I had employed in February, let's say March, that I didn't keep because business was going down and we were all stressed out as what it was going to be like. So there's kind of elements in there, and obviously I didn't claim anything for these types of. For this type of furlough. Also, there's a big question about the trunk system that we operate in the restaurant business. I'm not going to go into details, and you may know what this is, but it is a big portion of most people's salary. At the moment, do we have an update? Where do we stand on this? Is it not included?
I think you asked this question last time as well.
I did, yes. I'm just seeking
the guidance that we have seen. Bonuses, commissions, these are not included. Only the basic pay is. But James, I'll send you our email address, and if I'll ask our payroll staff as well, if there is any additional information, new information today or in next few days, we'll send the update to you.
One last question. Sorry to take so much time. I employed someone on the 28th of February. I run my payrolls on the last day of my payroll is the 26th of each month, so that we can pay people in time. So can I furlough that person?
I know
for the last week of March.
Yes, the initial advice was that if somebody has not been on your payroll on 28th of February or whenever you process the February payroll, you cannot furlough them, but it was advised that they should go back to their old employer and ask them to rehire them and furlough them straight away. I know there has been some recent updates as well, and this was extended to 19th of March, the job retention scheme. I would want to hear from others as well. What is their take on this now?
It's just that when you employ someone on the 28th of February, you run your payroll. You know, I send my payroll to my accountant on the 27th in the morning. So it's,
I understand. Let's see if David has an input on it or somebody else. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, simply speaking, as long as that individual is on the payroll on or before the 19th of March, they can be furloughed.
Great.
But again, what does this mean? Because there is no existing payroll on the 19th of March. It's created on the 26th of March.
I mean, we might ping pong here with Zaib, but they have to be registered on the payroll system, and I think uploaded on the in the real-time portal, so that they're seen to be on the payroll rather than the payroll was run on that date.
On the 19th.
Yeah, so it's not that the payroll has to be run on the 19th. They have to be registered and visible on or before the 19th.
Of March. Okay, thank you, and sorry for taking so much time.
No, that's great. Thank you, Walter. Just ask the panel to think, just in closing really, is there anything that you've seen or heard that you'd like to add a comment to whilst we take the last questions?
If I may, Steve, just the reiteration from me really that we are in the moment, and understandably so, but you know, things won't end once the lockdown eases. So please make sure you're thinking about what your next steps are going to be around your team. And obviously beyond that, we're happy to talk that through people if they need a little bit of help.
Lovely. Thank you, David. If we've no more questions, I'd just like to thank all of our speakers and all the participants for attending this business forum. We will do another one next week. If you have any suggestions for speakers, obviously it would be absolutely great to have someone from you know, government, but that's unlikely to happen at the local level. If you've got any ideas for speakers, please email me. And also don't forget that the Mayor of London has introduced this Pay It Forward scheme, just helping businesses to raise money on the promise of goods in the future. And it's a crowdfunding scheme. You know, it might be a last resort, but it also might be quite viable to bring in some cash for your businesses. So thank you all very much for attending. And with that, we'll close this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care and stay safe.